Hi, this is Katie Barlow, and today I'm talking with Jay Zeibart. She's an education specialist with 2 hospitals in Ventura County, California. She has a health science background as well as special certifications to teach diabetes empowerment education program and the chronic disease self-management program, which is now called Healthier Living. She volunteers with the Ventura County Public Health, where she has assisted with events, screenings, and taught health education for after-school programs. She's developed several plant-based eating classes, including a cooking class, introductory seminars and presentations, and a 3-week class series. She has also developed many other classes and seminars to specifically address a variety of health and wellness concerns. She's recently opened her own private practice where she performs one-on-one coaching, holds workshops for employee wellness programs, and presents introductory plant-based education to groups. Hi, Jay.
Hello.
So can you tell us what exactly is an education specialist?
That is a good question. So basically what I do is I'm a health educator. So with the hospital, we have a community health, which is basically our public health outreach. And we do all sorts of free classes for the community. So we talk about diabetes, as you mentioned, chronic diseases, heart disease, including hypertension, cholesterol, stress management, all sorts of areas of wellness. And we teach everyone from littles to all the way up to the older elderly. So it's a wonderful job, and I really, really enjoy it. It's basically my dream job.
Yeah, that job does sound awesome. Can you tell us a little bit more about why this is your dream job and why this is your passion?
Absolutely. I've always been interested in nutrition. It fascinates me, the way that we can affect our physiology by what we put in our bodies. And as many of us have been victim to the media has led me astray so many different ways. It wasn't until I actually figured out how to do proper research. Actually, it wasn't until I had a terrible health scare and through that learned how to do proper research that I finally really, really just started to learn exactly how our bodies work. And really the most important lesson there is the stuff that's in the media is all about sales. They don't really care about our health. All they care about is selling whatever it is they're selling, either whether it be magazines or the latest diet or exercise program, whatever. What we need to focus on is the actual science. And that's what got me from where I was to where I am, which was a pretty amazing journey for me. I went to my doctor's office and for an unrelated issue, and they did the thing where they put you on a scale and they throw a blood pressure cuff on you. And when the blood pressure cuff went off, I wasn't paying attention, but the nurse called the doctor over right away. And I thought, okay, that's not good. She came over and she took my blood pressure again. She took me into the room and she took my blood pressure again. And she basically got a look on her face. And I know some of us out there have seen this look on our doctor's face, but it was a very, very unpleasant experience. She then proceeded to tell me some of the scariest words I've heard from another human being, and that is, your blood pressure is at stroke level. And at the time, I was 35 years old. So I found myself in this position that was completely baffling to me because I thought I was eating healthy. I mean, I loved whole grains. I hadn't eaten a piece of white bread in I don't know how long. I loved vegetables. I hadn't eaten fast food in a couple of years. I hadn't drunk any soda in a year and a half. And I thought that I was doing everything correct. And where I was at my heaviest weight with stroke level blood pressure at the age of 35. I mean, I hadn't even reached really midlife yet. And I was, this close to not being here anymore. And it was a very powerful experience for me because my father-in-law and my grandfather both had massive strokes. So I know very much the possibilities of what that could look like. That was a pretty big motivator for me. So I did a couple of diets after that because I thought it's all about the weight. It's all about the weight. It's all about the weight because that's all that we hear. Lose weight, lose weight, lose weight, lose weight. But there are lots of ways to lose weight that are not necessarily going to be healing for our bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did a couple of diets, of course, that one I gained weight on, and the other one, I lost a little bit of weight, but I still didn't feel good. And
Can you tell me a little bit more about the diets that you
Sure,
tried?
sure. It's a little bit embarrassing, but if somebody else can learn from it, I'm willing to share. So the first one, the one that I gained weight on, which will be no surprise to you when I tell you about it, is the farmer's diet. Basically, you could eat whatever you want as long as you made it from scratch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So of course, I mean, there's lots of really yummy things that are not so healthy for bodies that we can make from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a farmer, I don't work all day long in the field, so
Mm-hmm.
right,
Yeah.
it really wasn't something that was.
Mm-hmm.
I was 11 years old, right? And there's so many things that I have tried, some of them semi-healthy, some of them really not healthy at all. I mean, a person can lose weight by eating cotton balls. I read a story that somebody actually did that. So that just because you're losing weight does not mean that you're getting healthier. And so what I did was I took that weight loss thing and I put it over there. Okay, that's still going to be there. At that point, I was like, I'm never going to lose this weight and keep it off. I was actually really good at losing weight. I'd lost hundreds of pounds, but I had gained them all back plus more.
Mm-hmm.
So I had basically given up the idea of weight loss. What I really wanted to do was keep living. And so I was trying to figure out a way to heal my body. And that's when I really got into true research. I'm talking scientific studies, not anything that's opinion-based, and things that are just science-based. And what I found was the plant-based diet. And at first I was like, this makes sense. It's a little bit extreme. That was my opinion when I first started. It felt extreme, but I was so desperate to get healthy that I was like, okay, this is what the science says. I'm going for it. And, for most people, I'm a health educator. So what I recommend for most people is incremental changes, baby steps or bigger steps if you can handle it, but steps nonetheless. But I was in a place of crisis. The medications that I was taking were not working. They're actually making me feel absolutely wretched. One medication that we tried for my blood pressure, I was pretty sure, this is going to sound so overly dramatic, but people know deep down, I think. I was an EMT. So one of the things they teach you is if a person says they feel like they're dying, then you need to believe them, because we can feel that deep down. And there was one medication, I literally felt like I was dying on it. And so nothing was keep bringing my blood pressure down. Nothing was working. And so, I'm trying all of these different diets and trying to figure out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to survive this. And I came across a plant-based diet and I thought, okay, I'm just going to go for it. And so I went in both feet immediately. Right away I did it. And it was amazing. Within 4 days. Now, keep in mind, I had been on years of dieting, but within 4 days, I knew it. I'm like, this is it. I hadn't had a chance to appreciably lose any weight, or, didn't know if my blood pressure was coming down, but just by the way that it made me feel, I knew this was the right one.
Can you tell me more about that? More about how it made you feel in just those 4 days, and how it was different than the way the other diets made you feel? Can you kind of
Absolutely. I got to tell you, the first couple of days I felt kind of crummy, and that is actually perfectly normal. It's all part of your body adjusting, your gut biome changing, you detoxifying a bit. So the first couple of days I felt a little, it's almost like flu-y a little bit. But by day 4, my head cleared, my energy went through the roof. I was driving my husband absolutely crazy because I couldn't stop talking and I couldn't sit still because I just felt so good. I just wanted to move. I just wanted to keep talking about how amazing I felt, and I wanted to keep doing things. One of the things I did almost immediately was go back to school because my head cleared, my focus returned, my moods leveled out. It wasn't super all over the place with moods, but definitely had those days where I was like, why am I crabby today? This sort of thing. and so much less of that. I just feel so much more even and so much more stable and grounded. And I really felt fantastic. One of the first things I noticed within a few months is my blood pressure came down. I was off my blood pressure medication within 6 months and maintaining a normal blood pressure. The other thing I noticed was, I mean, the weight was coming off, but that was not what I was focusing on. I was purposely not focusing on that. And it was coming off slowly. It wasn't, like super dramatic in the beginning. What I really noticed is that my whole life was a lot more clear. It affected all areas of my life. So I noticed that I was really spinning my wheels with what I was doing professionally. And so I went back to school, and this naturally was my passion. Like I said, I've been interested in nutrition my whole life. I've been had jobs where I was part of the healthcare field, and it's always fascinated me. So it naturally led into this other avenue, this other life path for me, just so naturally. It just sort of happened, and here is where I am now. And it's been amazing. It's been really, really, really wonderful.
I hear all the time from people who have transitioned to a plant-based diet how it has affected other areas of their life that nutrition shouldn't have any effect on all the time. And it's so amazing to me to hear. And it really does make me really have a stronger belief in that, mind, gut, food, mental health, connection, and how, we need to be thinking about it in both ways, and I'm eating bad. All this stuff is not going right in my life. I mean, eating bad, and for some people, they focus on just one or the other, only on the food or only on, their life, their joy, their happiness. And we really need to be doing both, and how just making a simple choice, choosing to focus on healing instead of weight loss.
Exactly.
And choosing the foods that really promote that can just have such a profound effect on so many areas of your life.
Huge. I talk a lot about with people who are trying to make a change to a healthier way of being, a healthier way of eating. It can be really difficult to find that path, to find, what it is that is going to work for you. And it's very much individual. I mean, the science does show us what, is the most ideal way for humans to fuel our body, but everyone needs to approach it in a slightly different way. Yeah. And the thing that I think is one of the best features of finding your peace with your nutrition is just the peace and contentment you feel with your own body. You stop feeling like you're constantly battling your body, and you start to feel like you're a team again. It almost sounds like a dual personality kind of thing, but if we think about it, it makes sense, because we have, our lizard brain, or our lower brain, and then we have our brain that gets to make all the decisions, that actually gets to think about it. And those two do not always agree. Yeah. And when you are nourishing your body really well, it really calms that lower brain into, realizing that you're going to take care of this body. You're taking care of it. And then you're going to be able to make those rational decisions a lot easier than if you're constantly battling against, the types of foods that create addiction and, cravings and all that kind of stuff. The peace and contentment that comes with that is huge. It's huge if you think about all of the time that we spend obsessing about what we eat, obsessing about our weight. Those are the two big ones, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's all these other health factors as well, but what we eat and how it affects our weight are the two biggest things that most of us focus on. Mm-hmm. And being able to find peace with that, I mean, that's huge. It mm-hmm. was for me.
Yeah, definitely. I see that over and over again in so many people, that being able to just find that peace and letting go of those two things, the obsession over food and trying to find the perfect diet, but also the obsession over weight and trying to you know, trying to reach this unrealistic ideal of thinness that the media portrays that's just not realistic. Because we are more than what we look like, you know.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly. And people assume just because we are thin, or that some of us are thin, that they're healthy.
healthy
And
or
that is
happy.
not necessarily the case.
No, it's not.
We see people, very, very slim people that exercise quite a bit, that have heart attacks on a regular basis. We see this on a regular basis. I mean,
Yeah.
even in, celebrities and things like that, not to mention regular life. And so, not overburdening our body with excess weight is important, but it's not the only thing, right?
Yeah. Can you tell me some struggles that you went through in their first 6 months to a year after transitioning to a plant-based diet, and how how you've overcome them or come to terms with them?
Sure, of course, of course. I think our struggles is where we can help people the most. If we can show that, yes, I'm a real person, and I have real flaws, and my knowledge is what it is, or was what it was back then, and I was still able to accomplish it. I was still able to get through it. I think that is really, really invaluable. So in the beginning, this was about, oh gosh, 6 or 7 years ago. And so basically, in the beginning, plant-based was not as common as it is right now. So there was a lot of weird looks, like, what are you doing? From people around me. My husband wasn't on board right away. It only took him a few months because he saw how dramatic my results were. He was on 2 blood pressure medications, by the way, and he now maintains a normal blood pressure without any medication. He lost over 30 pounds. I lost over 50 pounds. But in the beginning, I was like, what do I eat? Like, I loved vegetables. So, I went there. I ate a lot of vegetables. And I did research, and I did read, and I did have a look at what other people were eating. But it's really, I don't think it's the best way for most people to take everything you eat, wipe it out, and start with a completely new diet that's like doesn't look anything like what you used to eat. What I discovered worked. Like, in the beginning, I did that. In the beginning, I was like, okay, kale, 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 right? But not that kale isn't fantastic. It is. But what I needed were things like I have now, which is things like my Caesar salad recipe. Because in the beginning of our marriage, we ate Caesar salad at least once a week. Now I have a plant-based Caesar salad that we eat on a regular basis. I used to be famous for my potato salad way back before, and now I am again, but it's all plant-based. So one of the lessons that I learned the hard way was that you don't have to eat what your perception of ideal or whatever people say is ideal. What you need to do is you need to figure out how to take what you eat and make it better.
Yeah.
When you can take what you eat and make it better, then it's so much easier to sustain. Yeah. In the beginning, there were so many times where I was like, I don't even know what to eat. And I was eating the same thing all the time, which is fine if it's healthy, but variety is so much better for our bodies. And so, my husband loved burritos. And that was his last holdout before he fully transitioned. He had his one burrito every Friday. And so he would order his burrito, and I totally did not push him. You have to be very careful when you're talking to other people, especially those people that are closest to you, about this way of eating, especially if you get passionate about, which many people do because the results are so amazing. But pushing does not work. People don't resist change as much as
food is so emotional,
It is so emotional.
So emotional,
yes.
And people are very passionate about their food choices.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And people don't resist change as much as they resist being changed.
Yeah.
So if you can, planting seeds is a good thing, but trying to influence people with more force tends to not work so well. Mm-hmm. Anyways, so one of the mistakes I made was not really realizing that I could eat the food that I like and still be healthy. I thought that I had to eat this completely different diet that was totally alien to me. Not totally alien. I mean, I loved vegetables, but just not in this way. That's not the way I normally did it. You know, the way that we do meals in North America is very meat centered. And so you really have to kind of flip your thinking a little bit, but I can still have the things that I really love. The comfort foods are all plant-based, potatoes and right, they're all plant-based. So it wasn't really hard once I figured that out. So the two biggest things are figuring out what to eat and making sure that you have that support, because it can get a little bit lonely, especially if you're running into like roadblocks and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I went plant-based 10 years ago, I was young and not a great cook, and so I just literally took what I was eating in my omnivore diet and just replaced it with the vegetarian alternative. So I would, take my sandwiches to work with me with vegan meat and vegan cheese in it instead of the
Right.
regular meat and cheese. And I would get bagels with hummus instead of cream cheese in it. And similarly, back then, 10 years ago, there wasn't a lot of options.
No.
But yeah, that's just how I learned to do it, was just eating the things that I liked and that I knew how to cook, and just substituting ingredients. And what I found was that I slowly started liking cooking more, slowly started incorporating different ingredients I'd never even heard of before,
Right.
and just learning along the way. And now my diet is very, very drastically different than what it was 10 years ago, but it was a process of just slowly like learning how to replace the things I loved with healthier, more plant-based options.
And that transition method works best for most people. That is the transition method that works best for most people. Doing making small changes, especially in the beginning, and working up to what you believe and what you've researched is ideal. Highly recommend that everybody does their own research. And I know some people aren't big fans of that, but if you cannot do that yourself, at least find someone you trust that you know has as unbiased as possible. Everybody is biased, but find somebody who is as unbiased as possible, and look at their research, look at their summaries.
Yeah.
You really need to own it. That's the big thing. The big thing is taking this on for yourself and realizing that you are able to make the changes that you need to make in order to get healthier. And, there are people like us out there that are trying to help people to do that, but it's really up to the individual to own it, to take control, and to take their power back and make those changes themselves.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your coaching and consulting practice that you just started. What made you decide to go,
I'm so
go towards
excited.
that
Yes.
route?
I was so excited about it. I wasn't sure that I was going to do that. I really love being a health educator. But a health educator is very different from a health coach. Those two things are a lot more different than I think people realize, more than I realized in the beginning. Coaching is about working with a person and allowing them to figure it out. They do all of the work. I mean, they do all of the talking, they do all of the planning, they do all the goal setting. You just are helping them in whatever way that they need support. Whereas an educator, I mean, I do all the talking mostly. I try to engage my participants, but I mostly am doing the talking, whereas a coach is more of a listener, and they're more of a support system. They're more of a person to walk with you on your path. And I'm loving it so far. I mean, it's really, really wonderful. I'm really excited about the workplace wellness. That's still more on the health educator side, but it's usually smaller groups. And I'm really enjoying the intimacy of those groups. My plant-based classes tend to have 30 or so people, which is, kind of hard to have really, really good connections that way. We do anyways, because people really bond over food. But this health coaching thing, I'm really excited because I have my plant-based series, and at the end of it, people go, okay, I'm ready to do this. Now what? Right? And so they have the energy, they have the drive, they have the goals that they have in mind, but getting from where you are to where you want to be is sometimes not so clear a path.
Yeah. And I have two more questions. Okay. One is, what do you tell people or teach people about the two biggest food fears that are out there right now, soy and gluten?
Oh, that's interesting. So, what I focus on with people is mostly about processing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk to people about what they're eating, what I'm telling them is to get it as close to nature and as close to natural as possible. And when you do consume something, everything that grows from the ground that's edible, if you do consume something, if the peel is edible, to eat the peel as well. So we're talking whole foods as close to nature as possible. So that goes for soy as well. The science is very clear about soy. What's not clear is what the media says about soy. Now, soy, very, very processed. We're talking, when you're looking at the ingredients, looking for words like protein isolate, this sort of thing, those are not good for us. But soy, the edamame bean, the tempeh, the tofu, the closer and toward the whole food, those things are really, really good for our bodies. They're very health protective in all sorts of ways. For example, soy is very protective in terms of blocking excess estrogen, which is, a problem with cancer, and all sorts of other things related to our hormones and things like that. So soy, on this side, on the whole food side, is healthy. This other stuff, this highly processed foods, especially these vegan substitutes. Now, I don't tell people not to eat vegan substitutes because sometimes that is the way to get where they need to be. Now, for example, cheese. Two of the biggest things that people say, I just can't, is coffee creamer and cheese, those two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we work on finding a coffee creamer that works for them. Macadamia nut and oat are the two favorites I hear most often, oat milk. And for cheese, if you need to use those vegan substitutes that are full of those SOSs, the salt, oils, and sugars, then do what you got to do until you get over that addictive, phase
So,
in your.
if people are saying, "Oh, I'm craving meat right now," or "I'm craving cheese," you suggest that they opt for the plant-based versions, even though they're not, part of a healthy lifestyle, over the animal-based.
Absolutely, because what happens almost all the time, not everybody is slightly different, as you know. What happens most of the time is they use those substitutes and they want to go further. And if they do, then they get over that. And cheese is actually, there's a physiological reason why it is a little bit addictive.
Mm-hmm.
So, once you get that out of your system, you realize, oh, I'm good now. Give it a few weeks and be like, okay, I can do this.
And I have found from personal experience that the vegan alternatives are not as addictive. Like, I used
No.
them all the time when I was transitioning, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how this happened, but eventually I just didn't want them anymore. They just weren't something that I craved or wanted or needed anymore, and they just kind of fell off of my diet.
I hear that all the time. When I was transitioning, the vegan cheeses out there were disgusting. And
Oh, yeah.
so I actually just went for the avocado. That was my sub, or hummus, or, whatever, something like that. But the plant-based cheeses that are out there now are amazing. And the recipes that you can find online for plant-based cheeses that are actually healthy for you, you can use those instead of this stuff that's made from cow's breast milk. So what I tend to focus on in terms of food choices is really sticking towards the whole side.
And that kind of goes along with calorie density too, because the more whole it is, the lower the calorie density is, the more that you can really listen to your body's fullness and hunger level when you're eating those foods.
Yes, and when it comes to low calorie density, high nutrient density foods, they tend to be very high in water, very high in fiber. So not only are they low calorie, but that water makes you feel fuller, that fiber makes you feel fuller. The fiber will actually draw out some of the excess out of your body once it's ready to be eliminated, and it keeps everything moving really, really nicely. So that fiber is fiber is really the core of why this is so healthy for us. I mean, there are the micronutrients and the phytochemicals and all that kind of stuff in our glorious jewel-colored fruits and vegetables. But the fiber feeds the good bacteria. The fiber draws out the excess things in our body that we don't need, the excess lipids like our cholesterol and things like that.
And
And
I think
yeah, and it
fiber
allows
can be like,
things to absorb in a natural way instead of like going.
yeah. And I think fiber can be like a whole different discussion. Like we could talk for
Yeah,
hours.
definitely.
Fiber and
Definitely.
microbiome and all that stuff. What about gluten? Quickly tell me, like, what is your advice for people who are like, oh, gluten, I think I'm sensitive. I don't know. I was told to avoid gluten. Like, what do you tell?
So gluten is, I think we're going to discover the reason why so many people are becoming gluten sensitive in the near future, but we don't really know scientifically what that is yet. There are theories out there, and I have some notions about it. What I worry about in terms of people that are finding that they are gluten sensitive, or finding that they have celiac disease, this sorts of thing, is that they are reaching for foods in the gluten-free aisle that are extremely processed. And so we want to really be mindful of, first of all, checking to see if we actually do have a sensitivity. You can, typically there are ways to figure that out. Elimination diets, talking to your doctor about ways to figure out if you actually are gluten sensitive. And then if you would like to avoid things that have gluten in them, you can do so while still eating whole foods. Like you can just avoid the grains that have gluten in them and eat the grains that do not. There's still lots of foods available to us if you choose not to eat gluten. There are still lots of really healthy foods. The foods that are in the gluten-free aisle, though, the breads and the cookies and the pastas, I really worry about those because they are highly processed foods. And so if you are going to go for a gluten-free pasta, then just find a whole pasta made with a whole food that doesn't have gluten in it. That's what I would officially recommend.
Or just use your favorite pasta sauce on a bowl of rice.
Or spaghetti squash or zoodles or whatever you're into. Yeah. I mean, there are lots of options out there without going to that processed food. That's my biggest worry when it comes to gluten-free.
Yeah. All right. And what is your vision for the future? What do you see? What are your hopes and dreams, and what do you see going on in the future, both for you, yourself personally and globally?
Oh, I have so many big dreams. I'm really working on developing my network. I have so many doctors and physician assistants, nurse practitioners, adding registered dietitians and other health coaches to really come together to work on changing our systems, because a lot of our systems are still fairly resistant. The hospitals I work for, thankfully, have been relatively open-minded. I still get some pushback occasionally from other healthcare professionals, but I feel like we're really moving in a positive direction. So my biggest dreams, my biggest sort of balls in the air that I would like to see come to fruition are healthier foods in hospitals, healthier foods in schools, and the general acceptance that there are aspects of the plant-based diet that are ideal and they should be the go-to, and then made adjustments as needed from there, instead of this sort of wishy-washy thing that we get with USDA recommendations. Things like they say that eat half of your grains whole. So does that mean we're supposed to eat half of our foods processed? Is that ideal? I don't think so. So going from sort of hand holding us, I would rather be told the truth. I want the truth out there. So tell me the truth and I will decide how closely I would like to get to it. I'm still, a free person that lives in this country. So I can decide whether I want to eat junk food. I can do that if I want to, but at least start by telling me the truth. So those are sort of my visions for the future. The truth and healthy foods for in public places.
I love it. Those are great visions and dreams. All right. Thank you so much, Jay, for this discussion. It was really, really awesome. And I know that a lot of people will get so much value out of it.
Thank you so much for doing this. I just want to let everybody know, if you want more information about me and what I do, you can go to pbforlife.com. That's the letters PBFORLIFE.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye, Katie.